Hello and welcome to NDTV 24/7. I'm Priyanshi Sharma, and over the next half an hour we'll get you the top news stories. Well, starting with the Prime Minister's state visit to Egypt that has come to an end. The Prime Minister there received Egypt's highest state honor, which is Order of the Nile, from the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Now, this is the 13th such highest state honor that various countries across the world have conferred upon Prime Minister Modi. During his visit, the Prime Minister also visited Egypt's historic 11th century Al-Hakim Mosque and the Heliopolis Commonwealth War Cemetery in Cairo to honor Indian soldiers who had fought in World War I. The Prime Minister also held talks with the Egyptian President el-Sisi, and in the first bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Egypt in 26 years, the two nations signed a deal to elevate relations to a strategic partnership. Here's our report.
The Order of the Nile, the highest state honor in Egypt, was conferred upon Prime Minister Modi on his second day in the nation, the first trip by any Indian Prime Minister in over 26 years.
Honorable Prime Minister has received the highest civilian awards from 13 countries together with this award, and of which 6 of them come from countries which have population which is highest in Islamic Muslim population. 6 Muslim dominated population countries, totaling, all of them total to 13, 6 plus the rest, so total 13 countries have given.
The Prime Minister also paid a visit to Cairo's historic 11th century Imam Al-Hakim bi Amr Allah Mosque, which is rebuilt with the help of India's Dawoodi Bohra community, which shares a special connection with the Prime Minister dating back to his days in Gujarat as Chief Minister, when he invited the community to celebrate the 100th birthday of their then religious chief. He also visited the Heliopolis Commonwealth War Cemetery, where he paid tribute to the Indian soldiers who lost their lives in the First World War. The Prime Minister's trip to Egypt would have been incomplete without a visit to the Great Pyramids of Giza, one of the 7 wonders of the world, which he visited accompanied by Egypt's Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli. The Prime Minister Modi's trip to Egypt proved especially fruitful. He signed a memorandum of understanding to elevate the bilateral relationship between the two nations to a strategic partnership with trade, investment, defense, security and renewable energy on the agenda. Although Prime Minister departed Cairo for New Delhi after just 2 days, he will soon meet the Egyptian President again. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs said that the Prime Minister has extended an invitation to Egypt for the G20 summit that India is hosting later this year.
A very, very crucial area of our partnership, which is on the restoration and preservation of old cultural site. Prime Minister also extended invitation to the Honorable President for the G20 summit, which is upcoming in September 2023.
Bureau Report, NDTV.
And Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman hit out at former US President Barack Obama over his comments, saying that he would look to raise the subject of Indian Muslims with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Obama, in an interview, had said that if Prime Minister Narendra Modi doesn't protect the rights of ethnic minorities in India, then there's a strong possibility that India would at some point start pulling apart. That's what Barack Obama had said in an interview to CNN. Questioning Obama's comments, the finance minister said that she was shocked to hear this as the US bombed 6 Muslim majority nations under Barack Obama's rule.
भारत के रिलीजियस टॉलरेंस के ऊपर एक यूएससीआईआरएफ है, उनके कमेंट्स आ जाता है। राष्ट्रपति जी ने कुछ बातें बोल रहे हैं, जहां शायद 6 देशों के खिलाफ, जहां मुस्लिम पॉपुलेशन डोमिनेंट है, बॉम्बिंग हुई उन्हीं के कालों में। सीरिया से लेकर के, यमन के लेकर के, सऊदी के लेकर के, इराक के लेकर के बॉम्बिंग नहीं हुआ। ऐसे जब कंट्रीज उनके अपनी तरफ से उनके राजनीतिक निर्णय के बारे में वो करते हैं, भारत के खिलाफ एलिगेशन डालने में कहाँ उसको सुनने वाले लोग भी भरोसा रखेंगे। इसीलिए मैं मानती हूँ ये सब हमारे विपक्ष भी बाहर जाकर के बात करने के समय भारत के हित में नहीं बात करते हैं, क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी को वो डिफीट कर नहीं पाएंगे, ऐसे लोगों को उछालते हैं और वो भी इनके कारण इस बहस में शामिल हो जाते हैं बिना ग्राउंड लेवल डिटेल्स को लेते हुए।
And as tensions continue in Manipur for close to 2 months now, an all-party meeting convened by the Union Home Minister Amit Shah was held in the national capital. In that meeting, most opposition parties demanded the removal of Chief Minister N. Biren Singh for being partisan and part of the problem. Those were the words that were said in that meeting, according to reports. Now, the opposition parties also insisted that the centre should put in place a quote-unquote time-bound action plan for peace so that the northeastern state doesn't simmer again. The Chief Minister, on the other side, tweeted that the state and the central government have been able to control the violence to a great extent in the past week. He said that it may be noted that there has been no report of casualties due to the violence since the 13th of June. That's the Chief Minister's defense after opposition parties demanded his resignation. He also said that the Union Home Minister has assured that the central government will take all possible steps to bring normalcy in Manipur. Further, the Home Minister also advised them to strengthen their work towards achieving everlasting peace, and he also sought the cooperation of every stakeholder in Manipur to ensure that peace prevails in the state. The comments come close to 2 months after ethnic violence broke out in Manipur, and tensions have continued ever since. Moving on, the wrestlers who have been protesting against the Wrestling Federation of India chief and BJP MP Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh have now announced that they will no longer protest on the streets. They've said that now they will file a legal battle, as an FIR has been filed, an investigation has been done, and a charge sheet has been filed as well. Along with that, the protesting wrestlers Sakshi Malik and Vinesh Phogat have announced a break from social media. Here's what Vinesh Phogat has said on Twitter. She said that in the talks held with the government on the 7th of June, the wrestlers had a talk with the government, and while implementing the promises made with respect to the sexual harassment allegations that the wrestlers had levelled against the BJP MP, there were several allegations made, and the wrestlers are saying that 6 women and their complaints were registered by the Delhi police, and the Delhi police completed their investigation, and they filed a charge sheet as well on the 15th of June. So they are now saying that our fight will continue in a court instead, but we will no longer fight on the streets, but we'll continue our fight in courts until justice is served. Also, in relation to the reform of the Wrestling Association, the wrestlers say that the election of the new Wrestling Association should happen as promised, and the elections were earlier slated for July 11th, but the Guwahati High Court has stayed those elections. But the wrestlers have said that we are waiting for the implementation of the government's promise to conduct these elections on the 11th of July. Moving on, monsoon arrived in Delhi and Mumbai on the same day for the first time in 62 years. While it definitely brought some respite from the scorching heat, it also brought unfortunate news of civic apathy. 2 labourers died in Mumbai's Govandi as they drowned in an overflowing manhole while carrying out routine water flow tests. In the national capital, a woman was electrocuted to death as she held on to an electric pole to avoid puddles.
Monsoon arriving in Delhi and Mumbai on the same day for the first time in 62 years. But while it came 2 days before its usual due date in Delhi, in Mumbai it has come 4 days late.
जून 25, 2023 को मुंबई के साथ महाराष्ट्र पूर्ण महाराष्ट्र राज्य में मॉनसून दाखिल हुआ है.
Even a day earlier, Mumbai saw very heavy rain, about 120 millimeters in an hour, resulting in flooded cars, waterlogging and traffic jams at various places. Several vehicles were stuck near the Andheri subway, drawing sharp remarks from the opposition.
पिछले साल तक जब भी ऐसी बारिश होती थी, ये तो 100 mm की बारिश है और इस बारिश में हमारे समय पे तो ऐसे पानी नहीं भरता था। तब मैं या कोई भी महापौर जो मेयर है या फिर उद्धव साहब खुद रास्तों पे जाते थे, लोगों से बात करते थे और जो भी गैर कुछ प्रकार हो रहे हैं या कोई असुविधा हो रही हो तो उसे सुलझाने की कोशिश करते थे, कोई जटिलता हो तो उसे सुलझाने की कोशिश करते थे। सब होने के बाद क्या दुरुस्त करने निकले? जो आज सरप्राइज विजिट, किसको सरप्राइज है? खुद को सरप्राइज दे रहे हैं या जनता को सरप्राइज दे रहे हैं?
After this, the Chief Minister himself visited the Worli Seaface and Santa Cruz Milan subway to take stock of the drainage system.
बारिश के वजह से वाटर लॉगिंग ना हो, लोगों को तकलीफ ना हो, इसकी मॉनिटरिंग म्युनिसिपल हेडक्वार्टर में से हमारा वॉर रूम जो है वो कर रहा है और इसमें शायद सभी हमारी टीम जो है कारपोरेशन की ऑन फील्ड है, रोड पे काम कर रही है और उसका जायजा मैं खुद ले रहा हूँ।
While the heavy rains exposed the deficits in the BMC's seasonal preparations, the rain also brought relief for Mumbaikars from the heat and drinking water shortage. In north and central India, Delhi, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh saw heavy rain. According to the meteorological department, monsoon has arrived in many states of northern India including Delhi, and rains will continue for the next 2 days.
हमारा ये पूर्वानुमान है कि अगले 2 दिन में मानसून और आगे बढ़ेगा। गुजरात, राजस्थान, पंजाब, हरियाणा के और कुछ हिस्सा में मानसून प्रवेश करेगा।
Many parts of Noida and Gurgaon were flooded, including the Delhi-Jaipur highway.
बारिश आई हुई है और बारिश ज़्यादा आई हुई है, तो इसलिए जल भराव की समस्या आई हुई है।
बारिश से गर्मी बहुत थी, उससे राहत मिली है लोगों को और जल भराव तो है शहर के अंदर, उसका निकासी का अच्छा होना चाहिए।
In Delhi, a woman was electrocuted by an electric pole near a train station. The railways say they will investigate the incident. Bureau Report, NDTV.
And effects of heavy rain were seen in Haryana too. People got stranded in an overflowing river and a car was even dragged off by the current. A woman who parked her car on the bank of the Ghaggar river was inside when her car got dragged away, as you can see in those visuals. Her vehicle got carried away as she had parked it on the riverbank. Fortunately, the woman was rescued and taken to a hospital, but several other people who were trying to cross the river in another spot also got stranded. All of this happened as the water levels rose due to heavy rainfall. Along with this, there was heavy rainfall in Himachal Pradesh as well. In Kullu, heavy rainfall led to flash floods and it damaged several vehicles in the Mohal Khad area. These vehicles that you are seeing in those visuals, these damaged vehicles were taken out with the help of a JCB, and the Met Department, remember, has issued a yellow alert indicating thunderstorms and lightning that is expected for the area for the 27th and 28th of June. Moving on, as there were income tax searches at multiple locations of Shree Cement Limited in Rajasthan, the company has said that the searches are still on and they are extending full cooperation to the investigation. Remember, the IT department alleged that there has been a whopping 23,000 crore rupees worth of tax evasion by the company, and that has been found in tax searches at multiple locations of Shree Cement Limited in Rajasthan. This is the information that we have from sources, and the IT department through sources claimed that this is one of the biggest tax evasion till date. The tax searches against the Kolkata headquartered cement firm continued for the second time this week. Time for a short break now. News continues on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's focus on Russia now, where the mercenary fighters who surged most of the way to Moscow against the military leadership decided to turn back to avoid quote-unquote bloodshed. This is what the Wagner chief said, and this has come as a de-escalation of what had become a major challenge to President Vladimir Putin's grip on power. But who is the chief of the Wagner forces? Someone who turned from Putin's strongest ally to the very person who almost deposed him. Vishnu Shom gets us these details.
For those wondering, who is Yevgeny Prigozhin, the mercenary leader of the Wagner Group, who seems set to fight his way into Moscow, the capital of nuclear-armed Russia, yesterday? We have a special report. In fact, Prigozhin has been a loyal supporter of Vladimir Putin so far. Yesterday, it seemed at one time that Prigozhin was ready to depose Putin. Before we get to the exact sequence of events in this crisis, here's a short background on Yevgeny Prigozhin. He's 62 years old. He was convicted of assault and robbery in 1981 and sentenced to 12 years in jail. He subsequently opened a restaurant business in St. Petersburg in the 90s. It's here that he became friends with Vladimir Putin, earning the label Putin's chef. Prigozhin rose up the ranks and became part of a group that revered the Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin. He formed the Wagner Group of mercenaries, which has seen action in Crimea in 2014 and North Africa and Syria. It has a key role to play, the Wagner Group, in Ukraine, where Russian prisoners were released and inducted into the ranks of Wagner with clear instructions. A shot at freedom that eventually resulted in the deaths of thousands of these prisoners in Wagner service. In December 2016, the US imposed sanctions on 15 Russian entities, including Mr. Prigozhin, whose Wagner Group had helped Russia annex Crimea from Ukraine in 2014. In fact, this is why if you ask any Ukrainian leader when the war started, they'll say 2014, not 2022. In February 2018, Prigozhin was indicted by a US grand jury for interfering, allegedly, in the 2016 presidential election in America by helping to spread fake news in support of Donald Trump's campaign. In October last year, things started to turn sour between Putin and Prigozhin. After being called to fight in Ukraine, Prigozhin opposed the Russian decision to withdraw from the strategic Russian city of Liman in East Ukraine. He said this withdrawal was a major embarrassment for Russia. In February this year, he's accused the Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Putin's most senior general Valery Gerasimov of withholding ammunition and supplies in an effort to destroy his Wagner Group of mercenaries. Last month in May, there was another fierce volley of words when he threatened to withdraw his soldiers from the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, where eventually he was able to defeat the Ukrainian army in the fiercest and most costly battle of this war so far. This month, Yevgeny Prigozhin refused to comply with an instruction to sign an order that would require his fighters to sign a contract with the Russian Defense Ministry. Last Friday, things reached a turning point when Prigozhin said the Russian invasion to Ukraine had been a racket and that the war was not needed and that it had been enforced so that some generals could be conferred military honors. Eventually on Friday and Saturday, Prigozhin had had enough, ordering his soldiers from Ukraine into Russia, where he captured the city of Rostov, the headquarters for all Russian military operations in Ukraine, and then set the stage for a possible coup attempt in Moscow, which, as we now know, didn't eventually happen.
So as Vishnu mentioned, while this threat to power for Vladimir Putin has been called off, let's take a look at what all happened that even made a coup seem likely.
24 hours of chaos in Russia, a notorious mercenary uprising that came as the biggest threat to Vladimir Putin in his 20-year-long rule. From the man who used to be his closest aide, Yevgeny Prigozhin. The Wagner Group's mutiny began with Prigozhin's call for a march for justice, ready to go all the way against the Russian military. The armed Wagner fighters crossed the Ukraine border Saturday morning, barreling towards the Russian capital. At what seemed to be lightning speed, the mercenary fighters soon took control of the key Russian city of Rostov, that houses the country's main military headquarters. With the coup seeming imminent, a defiant Putin appealed for Russian unity, saying that those behind the mutiny have stabbed Russia in the back and that they would have to pay for it. After seizing Rostov in just a few hours, reports came in of rebels taking control of all the military facilities of Voronezh. Even as Russian helicopters opened fire on a group of Wagner fighters, the revolt continued to gather pace. In the fast-moving situation, Putin seemed to be overwhelmed by the unprecedented mutiny. But in a dramatic twist, with the rebels less than 200 kilometers from Moscow, the Wagner chief called off the mutiny. This after Belarusian President Lukashenko brokered what many are calling a peace deal between Putin and Prigozhin. The Wagner chief retreated from Rostov with his nearly 25,000 troops to avoid bloodshed, he claimed. In a day of what seemed like total anarchy in Russia, Ukraine says that the mutiny has left Putin weak and humiliated. Vedant Agarwal for NDTV.
That's all we have for you in this show. Thanks very much for watching. News continues on the other side.